Aristides Aquino signed with the Reds organization way back in 2011. During his 8th season with the org, he finally got his break. One single plate appearance. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? He was subsequently non-tendered in the offseason and re-signed to a minor league deal. He finally broke out at AAA in 2019, leading to a legitimate MLB chance in August of that year. After going 0 for 6 in his first 2 games, Aquino went on the tear of his life.
We are tied at 3.
He homered 11 times in 14 games, and they weren't cheap shots. He'd been calling himself the Punisher since rookie ball, and it's easy to see why. That ball was hit 118 miles per hour. It was his second furthest homer of this series.
Oh gosh! Oh my gosh! Are you kidding me?
He also had a signature pose, a one-arm flex as he jogged around third. Aquino earned himself the starting cleanup spot for the remainder of the year, and even though his September didn't match his insane August, MLB fans expected him to be a big part of the Reds' future plans. That simply wasn't the case, since he went out and signed Nick Castellanos and Shogo Akiyama, and Aquino only got 9 plate appearances before the expanded COVID roster shrunk and he was demoted. When he was recalled at the end of 2020, he was awful. Even with the Akiyama experiment crashing and burning in 2021, Aquino couldn't capitalize on his opportunities, with his near 40% strikeout rate preventing him from being productive. The bottom line is that Aquino homered 19 times in his 50-game rookie season in 2019, but only homered 22 times in over 180 games since. He did have some utility in the field, saving the second most runs with his arm in 2022, but that was his only positive value, so the Reds non-tendered him again after the year. Aquino is currently playing for the Chunichi Dragons of MPB, where he has an OPS south of 600 during the Japanese year of the pitcher. He also only has 1 outfield assist, so I'm not quite sure how long he'll last in Japan. For my money, the most intriguing part about his story is that his August run wasn't even the first Linsanity run for the 2019 Reds. Aquino and Dietrich had maybe the 2 best months in all of baseball in 2019. For years with the Marlins, Dietz was a slightly better than league average lefty utility man. He was DFA'd after 2018, probably because his defense, while versatile, wasn't good enough with his 750 OPS bat. The Reds picked him up on the cheap, and he made his mark on Reds Nation on opening day.
In the air, right center field, and Dietrich, welcome to Cincinnati!
In their next series against the Pirates, Chris Archer pitched him up and in, Dietrich homered, leaned back and watched, and got thrown at, which caused a pretty big brawl. Later in that game, he homered again. He had a pretty good April, especially against Pittsburgh, but he was just getting started. Dietrich hit 2 3-run bombs on May 3rd, a solo shot the next day, and another solo shot the day after that. 4 more homers over the next couple of weeks kept his season OPS around 1,000. Then, the Pirates came back to tank.
Holy Moses, did he hit that one? Don't tell me again. It is again for Dietrich. What a pickup Dietrich has been for the Reds.
Dietrich had the month of his life, slashing 300, 400, 800 with 12 homers. It was looking like the Reds found a hidden gem with the lefty swing tailor-built for their ballpark. The homers, the bat drops, and the attitude made him a cult hero during the first half of the Reds season. He largely sparked the Reds-Pirates rivalry that included multiple bench-clearing brawls throughout the year, which only made the Reds fans love him more. But after Dietrich's 3-homer game, he only hit 2 more for the rest of the season. In his last 57 games, he had just 12 hits and drew just 14 walks, both of which were surpassed by his 17 hit-by pitches. He only had 1 more hit after July 19th. His BABIP went from 220 in his first 130 at-bats to a microscopic 130 in his last 121. And since he only left the yard twice in those last 121, his batting average in that span was just .099. Dietrich played less and less as the year went on. He signed a minor league deal with the club in 2020 and eventually opted out of his contract when it was clear that he had no spot on the field. His last major league action came that year with the Rangers, where he actually wasn't bad, but he hasn't appeared in MLB since. He spent the next 2 years in the Yankees and National systems, served a 50-game PED suspension in 2022, and hasn't seen affiliated ball since. Remember this swing from a few minutes ago? Take a look who was pitching. Yup, that's the Chad innings eater himself, Jordan Lyles. Well, what do you know, he played for the Pirates. But this segment isn't about his time in Pittsburgh, or Houston, or Colorado, or San Diego, or Texas, or Baltimore, or Kansas City. Most of those places, his job was to eat innings and save the bullpen. But once the Brewers traded for him at the 2019 deadline, something magical happened. Lyles started limiting runs and helping his team win games. The Brewers went 10-1 in Lyles' 11 starts with the club. He only allowed over 2 earned runs once, and he put up 1.9 WAR in just 58 2/3 innings. Yup, 1.9 of his career -2.2 B-WAR came during this stint with the Brew Crew. As Milwaukee scratched and clawed to stay in the playoff race, injuries knocked out Brandon Woodruff and Christian Yelich, so Lyles stepping up his game really kept the club afloat.
I mean, Lyles is a dog. That boy's a dog. He goes out there and he just competes, and he keeps us in ball games, and I'm glad we traded for him because he's doing a great job.
His last start of the season was another win, clinching a playoff berth, bumping his record with the club to 7-1 and bringing the Brewers within a game and a half of the division, with just 4 games left to go. They came so close, but got swept in their last series in Colorado, going on to lose a heartbreaking wildcard game to the Nationals, and Lyles' sanity didn't continue into October. As you probably deduced, this wasn't sustainable. Even though his results were great with the Brewers, his peripherals didn't match. His .442 FIP was nearly 2 runs higher than his ERA, his BABIP against was about 80 points below his career norm, and he stranded nearly 90% of runners on base, which just isn't sustainable for anyone. Lyles did capitalize, signing a $17 million deal with the Rangers, and just as Foolish Baseball pointed out, he's brought value in less traditional ways since. But that second half run with Milwaukee was the perfect concoction of luck and timing that produced the 2 best months of his career. Today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek. There are more than 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek, from concerts to festivals and of course, ball games. I actually first used the app myself on MLB opening weekend this year. I was in Houston for the Final Four and decided to check out an Astros game while in town.
Welcome to the Astrodome.
The app I used to use didn't allow me to complete my transaction, so I went over to SeatGeek, saw a big green dot on field level, and made the order. I've been using SeatGeek ever since. With MLB in full swing, you're not going to want to miss out. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, so they have you covered for all of your baseball needs. Plus, artists like Post Malone and Drake on tour. SeatGeek puts all the tickets from across the web in one place and rates them from 1 to 10 so you can find the best deal. Just look for the green dots. And you know I'm coming through for the boys. Use my code ATB for $20 off tickets on SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code ATB. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app. Thanks! I actually covered Domonic Brown on the oldest public video on this channel, but I think I could do a better job now. Brown was an incredible multi-sport athlete in high school, and he was planning on going to the University of Miami to play wide receiver. Brown's football commitment let them wait until the 20th round to pick him, but Philly lured him away from the U with a $200,000 signing bonus. That investment paid dividends for Philly, as Brown rose to top 5 on multiple prospect lists by 2011. His length and sweet lefty swing drew comps to Darryl Strawberry. He hit so well in the high minors in 2010 that he got a cup of coffee with the big club, even making the playoff roster and getting a handful of pinch hit at-bats in October. Brown was in line to take over as the right fielder with Jason Worth's departure, but a broken hand led to the Phillies trading for Hunter Pence in 2011. Even though Brown no longer had a direct path to the big league lineup, the Phillies refused to cash him in on the trade market. He had clearly conquered AAA, and when Pence was traded away the next year, he got another chance at the highest level. But again, he didn't take the big jump that the Phillies were looking for. Brown had one last shot to become a key pillar of the Phillies team of the future. In 2013, Brown showed the world why he was so highly touted. He started pretty slow in the first few weeks, but beginning on April 27th in Queens, Brown went on the tear of his life. Including that game, he had a 39-game stretch where he mashed 17 homers, drove in 39 runs, and swiped 6 bags. He also hit .300 and threw out a couple of base runners from left field. During an unimpressive season for the team, Brown gave Phillies fans some hope for the future. He was an all-star, and even though he cooled off a little bit in the second half, it looked like he locked down the left field position for himself. With expectations as high as ever, and the Phillies deciding to keep him as the bridge between eras, 2014 was an absolutely brutal season for Brown. He only homered 10 times, and his offensive production went from all-star quality to well below average. His value, both to the Phillies and on the trade market, completely plummeted. He was now 27 years old. His defense was mediocre, and he'd only spent 3 months out of his 5-year career as a good hitter. Brown spent 2015 between AAA and the majors, and didn't hit well at either location. the Phillies released him after the season. Brown bounced around with the Blue Jays and Rockies systems over the next 2 years, before concluding his career in the Mexican League across 2018 and 2019. While he never lived up to his potential for the Phillies, in spring and summer of 2013, Domonic Brown gave us a peek into what could have been. If you liked the video, please subscribe. Over 90% of you aren't subscribed. It's free, only takes a click, and helps me out a ton. Thanks.
Ryan Roberts was widely overlooked at the start of his career. Drafted in the 18th round by the Blue Jays, Roberts was never looked at as a huge prospect, and he never got much of a chance at the big league level. From 2006 to 2008, he would only appear in 18 MLB games, and in 2008, the Rangers only called him up for a single at-bat. He signed with the Diamondbacks in 2009, where he got his first real chance in the majors. Thanks to his relentless hustle and scrappy style of play, he quickly became a fan favorite, earning the nickname Tatman for his large collection of tattoos. But while he put up a solid rookie campaign, he took a massive step back in 2010, spending most of the year in AAA. Heading into 2011, after 8 seasons as a professional, he knew that this was probably his last shot. So he entered camp that year determined to finally break through. Not only did he make the opening day roster, but he started the year by posting the best month of his entire career. In April, he hit .313 with 5 home runs, 15 RBI, and a 173 WRC+, all of which were career highs. Not only did this solidify his place in the starting lineup, it also made him one of Arizona's key spark plugs. By the end of May, Roberts was on pace for 25 homers, 25 doubles, and 30 steals. But more importantly, he helped lead the Diamondbacks to the top of the NL West, a half game ahead of the defending champion Giants. He would cool down a bit in June, hitting just .218 for the month, but after the All-Star break, Tatman came alive once again. He posted a 133 WRC+ in July and a 119 in August, adding another 15 extra base hits along the way. And as soon as Roberts got hot, so did the Diamondbacks. On September 1st, Arizona had a 6-game lead in the division. While his July and August helped lead the team to a division title, it was September that made Tatman a true Diamondbacks legend. On September 27th, the D-backs found themselves in a tough spot against the rival Dodgers. After a 1-1 pitcher's duel went to extra innings, LA scored 5 runs in the top of the 10th, putting Arizona in an almost impossible situation. And to make matters even worse, both of their first 2 batters in the inning grounded out. But with their backs fully against the wall, the D-backs started to chip away. Cole Gillespie and Miguel Montero started the rally with back-to-back singles. Chris Young then walked to load the bases, and an error by the third baseman made it a 6-2 game. The Dodgers would bring in a new pitcher to stop the bleeding, but he immediately walked Aaron Hill to bring in another run. This brought Roberts up to the plate as the potential winning run. And now, with a chance to get a huge momentum swing before the playoffs, he was asked to come through one more time.
Ryan Roberts drives in deep left field. Incredible!
Tatman's walk-off is one of the most iconic moments in Diamondbacks history. Between the impossible comeback, the Kirk Gibson celebration, and the fact that it was against the Dodgers, it was a magical moment to cap off a magical season. His 3.6 F4 in 2011 put him alongside the likes of Albert Pujols, Jimmy Rollins, and Carlos Gonzalez that year, and it made him the 4th most valuable position player on a very strong D-backs roster. But unfortunately, it would also account for over 60% of his career F4. After a disappointing first half in 2012, he was DFA'd by the Diamondbacks. And after a few more lackluster seasons, Roberts retired in 2015. Ryan Roberts' Linsanity run in 2011 left a legacy, one that will be remembered for years to come.
Thanks, Connor. Go check out his channel when you have the chance. 2023 has been the breakout season for the young Orioles core. Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman have led the longtime basement dwellers to the top of baseball's toughest division, and they only have more reinforcements on the way. Depending on how they finish in October, this could be one of the most memorable seasons in Orioles history. Baltimore's surprising season began with a red-hot April. going 19-9 in their first 28 games. Their next win marked the first time they were more than 10 games over 500 since 2017. During this stretch, their best player wasn't Adley or Gunnar. It wasn't Cedric Mullins or Anthony Santander, not Ryan Mountcastle, not Felix Bautista or Yanier Cano. It was shortstop Jorge Mateo. Mateo won the Orioles' starting shortstop job in 2022, playing in all but 12 of their games, stealing the most bags in the American League, and providing most of his nearly 3 FWAR on defense. He finally caught on as a starting player after years of being considered a bust. The Yankees signed him as an international amateur way back in 2012, and he ranked ahead of both Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez atop New York's top prospect list prior to the 2016 season. Mateo was the key piece sent to Oakland in the Sonny Gray trade at the 2017 deadline, but he never saw the big league field for the A's. The Padres traded for him before the abridged 2020, and he struggled through sporadic appearances between 2020 and 2021. Baltimore claimed him on waivers after the 2021 deadline, and he did just enough across the last few weeks of the season to get the 2022 shortstop gig. And as I said earlier, his first season as a starter was a good one. That leads us to this year. He hit 9th on opening day in Fenway, got on base 3 times, and swiped 2 bags. Most of the hype around Mateo entering the season was questioning just how many bases he could swipe now that they were the size of pizza boxes. After opening day, he was on pace for 324 steals. After Game 2, he kept that same pace with 2 more. By the end of April, his pace was down to an elite but more reasonable 58. 10 steals in April were expected. Good defense at shortstop was expected. What nobody expected was Mateo becoming the best hitter on the team. Through April, he was on a 35 homer pace with a 185 WRC plus and the team lead in WAR. Conventional wisdom would suggest that he was out punching his weight throughout the whole month and that his bat would regress to the means. The difference with this stretch was that Mateo's underlying statistics suggested that he had found something on offense. His sprint speed and outs above average ranked in the top 10% of the league, but so did his max exit velo, and his average exit velo, hard hit rate, and expected stats weren't far behind. Nobody thought this ridiculous pace would continue, but it looked like Mateo's bat was emerging as an above-average tool to go along with his defense and base running. 7 multi-hit games, 11 extra base hits, and just 12 strikeouts in the first month. He wasn't quite carrying the lineup the way that Dietrich or Aquino did, but getting that type of offense from someone who was expected to hit 9th all year was huge for the Orioles' season outlook. Mateo began the season with the best discipline of his career, but May and June saw his chase rate steadily climb until they were back to being among the worst in baseball. That, along with his hard hit balls steadily being replaced with medium and soft hit balls, led to 3 absolutely dreadful months in a row. His August hasn't even been much better, but he finally hit his first homer since April. Inside the park. He hasn't hit above the Mendoza line once since April and hasn't cleared the fence once either. Mateo's defense and base running values have been more than offset by his 14 WRC plus since April, as he's been worth negative 1.2 FWAR since then. There's a good chance he's replaced by Jackson Holliday for the Orioles playoff push, which would have been unthinkable based on how well he started off the season. And between Henderson's emergence and the expected recall of Holliday, I'd be shocked if he gets many starts at short for Baltimore next year, even if he remains on the roster. Out of the 7 balls he hit over 109 miles per hour this year, 5 came in April, and over half of his top 13 batted balls came in that first month. I'm not sure what mechanical adjustments have happened since then, but something has to have changed for the worse. This run fascinates me because not only did he legitimately fool me into thinking that he unlocked something on offense, but he followed it up by going on an outlier stretch 4 times longer in the exact opposite direction. My bold claim is that his true ability lies somewhere between the 2 extremes, probably closer to what we saw in 2022 than what we've seen during any one month of this season. His defense and speed will give him more chances with other teams in the future, and who knows, maybe he'll have a big moment or two to close out 2023.